Hey everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of the Rock Experience with Mike Brunn. On this episode, I'm joined by Joe Lalish and Jason Herndon from Kiss My Wax Records. They're going to talk all about what it's like putting together an album and getting it ready for release in the year 2022. There's lots of great information in this that I think you guys are going to really enjoy. In the second half of the show, they'll give us the inside scoop of their forthcoming Slaughter box set, Fear No Evil, as well as some inside information about the newest box set they're putting together for Slaughter, The Wildlife. There's lots of great information about this. The box sets look great, but don't take my word for it. Before we get started, let's listen and let's hear what Dana Strum has to say about them.
Every single thing it's beyond the expectations. It's incredible.
Yeah.
Hey everybody, welcome to the latest episode of the Rock Experience with Mike Brunn. Today I'm excited to have with me two guests, Kiss My Wax Records, Jason and Joe. How are you guys doing today?
Good. I like how he sidestepped my last name, Jason. Did you see that? So he just said,
You're not supposed to call me out. So I'll share with you a story. Growing up as a kid, I mispronounced everybody's name. And the one I butchered the most was Rudy Sarzo. And when I had him on my show about 18 months ago, I used to say Starzo. I put a T in there, okay? And when I had him on my show,
didn't even exist.
No, it didn't even know. It wasn't even. And my buddy Vincent would say it all the time. There's no T in there, and I'd say, "Oh yeah, Rudy Starzo." And when I had him on my show like 18 months ago, my buddy Vin was like, "If you pronounce his name wrong with him on your show, I'm never talking to you again." So anytime I could sidestep a name, and you just busted me on it, man, big time. But anytime I could sidestep a name, I'm doing it.
It's funny though, Joe. You know, when I first met Joe, you know, several years ago, I think I was mispronouncing this. What were we calling you? Lalich. Joe Lalich. That's what it was. Yeah, it's Lalich.
Well, for everybody watching, we're going to do a half hour on my last name.
That's right.
Now.
Which is cool. And then I can promise you tomorrow I'll get it wrong. So.
That's right.
Very cool.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Although Rudy Starzo is actually like a very hair metal name. That's
cool. And
cool.
I think that at like 15 years old, that's what I thought. It sounded better as Starzo, and I'm sticking with it all these years later.
That's right.
That's his name, whether he likes it or not.
Exactly.
Right.
No, somebody has to tell him that, but that's his name. So,
yeah, that's right. For the record, my last name is pronounced Herndon.
Very good.
Shut up.
So yeah.
That's great. Well, I wanted to have you guys on, and Jason, you've been on a few times in the past. Now, I think this might be your fourth time with me.
I think it's my fourth time.
Yeah, I think so too. And Joe, it's great to have you on for a first time, right? But I think it was good. I wanted to have you guys on, talk about your upcoming releases. You got the Slaughter albums that you've been putting out. I wanted to give you a little opportunity to talk about your business model and how things are going. So where do you guys want to start? Do you want to start with your business model? Do you want to give an update on Fear No Evil? I'll leave it up to the two of you guys. Where do you want to start?
I don't know, Jason, you maybe want to start just talking about where this came from and what we're doing and kind of what our goal is, and I can kind of help and interject as we go along.
Sure. Yeah. Correct me.
Why we're here.
Correct all of my misstatements. Well, I mean, just a little bit about us, and quickly before that, outside of our podcast that we do, Kiss My Collectibles, and Joe and I have done a couple of episodes for like a Kiss My Wax Records kind of podcast. But outside of that, we've never really been on anybody else's show and talked about our business and our labor or anything,
Well, I'm honored then.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're the first guy. It's like, man, I need to ask Mike if he even thinks this is an interesting thing to do. And I'm glad you said, yeah, let's
yeah,
do it.
Let's do it.
But so I guess it all kind of came out of Kiss My Wax, the group, the Facebook group, where it's, about 7,000 members of rabid Kiss vinyl collectors. And, just over time in that group, I have a long history in the music business. I've worked in the music business since I was 19 years old, going everywhere from just, retail clerks and retail managers and directors of advertising, and now head of sales at a vinyl distribution company. By the way, today is my 11th anniversary with my company. Can't believe it lasted.
Congratulations.
Nicely done. Yeah.
And so it just, came up that, hey, maybe we should start reaching out to some of these connections. Maybe we can license some records and put out some limited edition stuff. And, we had worked with a former partner and did a couple of Ace records. And then Joe and I, he went off and did his own thing. And then Joe and I decided we'd go off and do our own thing. And I guess a couple of years ago now, we decided to reach back out to Ken Gullick at E1 and said, hey, we would love to do another project with E1, and of course we'd love to do an Ace project because all of our built-in kind of customer base is really Kiss related, and we hadn't really ventured out past Kiss very much. So Ken was like, yeah, this is, I think it was around the time of Origins 2, and I think of Origins Volume 2, and I think he said, hey, we're going to keep everything Origins Volume 2 in-house, but it's the 5th anniversary of Space Invader, and we're not going to do anything with that. If you guys want to do something special, I've got some extra tracks that you can add to it, and you can kind of take creative direction, and that's what we did. So that was really the first project that Joe and I took on ourselves.
Have I ever told you that I like that, Jason?
You've told me that many times.
That's a running joke between us.
That's right. Many, many, many times. Yeah. And I appreciate that, so that's all that design is Joe. But,
great job on it.
Without going too deep into all of that, we figured out our business model and how we would operate things, and flew by the seat of our pants on a lot of stuff. And we got to work directly with Ace again and getting signatures on those records. And we were sold out, I believe, within 72 hours or so of all of them. And it wasn't a cheap record. It was $125, and but we put a lot into it. Joe is just an absolute amazing designer, and he's probably designed some stuff that a lot of you people have seen and don't realize that it's his work. And I if he wants to mention that stuff, he can. I won't. But he's done some really cool stuff, especially as of late. But yeah, that was a swimming success. And then we just looked at each other and said, let's keep doing this. Let's reach out beyond the Kiss arms, the Kiss tentacles here, and see if we can do anything else with any other bands. Well, my love, and Joe loves a lot of this stuff too, is 80s metal, or 80s hard rock, or hair bands, as a lot of people refer to it. And I have a tremendous collection of 80s metal CDs. I have like 5,000 or 6,000 CDs in there, and I loved all of those mid 90s records that came out on all of these indie labels when you kind of had the fall of 80s metal and grunge was up. And I was just like, I'm going to reach out to some of these labels and see if they're going to license any of this stuff. And lo and behold, they were happy to.
Right.
Sure. Yeah. So we got hooked up with BMG over in the UK, and
now, Jason, was this around 2018-19 time period that you're talking right now?
When did we start? This was probably early last year sometime, Joe.
Okay.
I think probably something like that. Yeah.
It was late. What is this? 2022? Late 2020 is when we started talking about the Slaughter thing. Because I remember the first time I ever talked to Mark about it. our buddy Pat Lucero, who's been best friends
Great
with
guy.
Mark. Yeah, Pat works closely on all of these Slaughter releases, but I'd been talking to Pat about doing Slaughter releases for a long time, and you know, I got on the phone with Mark one night. I remember where I was, and I said, "Hey, you know, I've you know, worked with this guy. His name's Joe Lalich. He's an amazing designer. We've released these Ace records, or been involved in these other Ace records, and you know, what do you think about doing this and collaborating?" And he was like, "You know, if you can make it happen, let's do something." So that's when I started digging into, you know, looking to try to contact some of these labels and see how their licensing agreements worked, and worked on our business plan and built our business model and figured out how we could do this, and without too much money out of our own pocket, to be honest. And that's how it started. Then, you know, shortly, probably in the first of 2021 is when we started talking to BMG, and you know, the rest is kind of history. So actually,
yeah, and I think the big part of it too, if I can just interject for a second, Jason, is like,
No.
you know, thank you. We you know, we actively sat around after those first couple of projects, Jason and I, and thought, okay, if we're going to do something, what would make it different? You know, why would we want to do something? Why would we just? There's tons of boutique labels out there who are releasing tons of things. You know, Friday Music and Rhino, and we know all the bigger players, but there's a ton of small players too. So we were like, well, what would set us apart? You know, and we had done some of the autograph stuff before, but we're always constantly thinking about what would a fan of this band, whether or not I'm a fan or Jason's a fan. Jason loves everything, so he's a fan of everything. But honestly, it's like, if I was a fan of this band, what would I want? And we actually go through you know, the motions of trying to really figure out what would they want, what would make this thing different, and what would make it cool. Because I feel like, as fans of some different bands, sometimes we see some hits and misses, and we're constantly saying, man, if they just would have done this, or why didn't they do this? This was their one shot at it. And, you know, we honestly felt like, you know, that with the Slaughter stuff, like because of Pat, and he's been absolutely integral in making this whole thing go, and sort of the conduit between us and the band. And, you know, obviously we know the band very well now, but, you know, Jason and Pat being friends and all that kind of coming together, he was so integral in giving us this unprecedented access. And the band has just been so fantastic. So
yeah,
it kind of goes back to that sort of core business model of what do we do that's different? So whether we're doing something for Ace Frehley and we're putting some extra or different tracks on, or different mixes, or, you know, we're doing the stuff with Slaughter, which are much more expanded sort of editions. You know, obviously we have the standard editions that are available as well, but we're always constantly thinking about what would a fan of this band really want if they had one shot and could sit with us at the table and decide what exactly would they want to see. We really hope that we're getting at least as close as we can within, you know, sort of a reasonable price range for some of the stuff that the fans would want to see. And that's really, it's not just about putting out records. It's really a passion for us, because I come at it from a design perspective, and just think, what would I want to see if this thing was at a record store and it was up on a shelf and it costs, you know, 125 or 145 or whatever it costs? What would I think would give me value out of that thing? And it's really cool that we get the opportunity to do it. But that's sort of like, aside from the genesis of it, okay, what's the next step now from where we started? With the context that we have, how can we sort of do something really cool and fun? And that's really the basis of all of it for us.
Right.
So,
And
go ahead, Jason.
I was going to say, I just wanted to build on that a little bit, because, you know, outside of the design aspect of it, you know, Joe mentioned you have a lot of these other labels, whether they're major label players or they're mid-level kind of players. So, you know, Rhino would be huge. That's a WIA label, you know, but somebody like Friday Music is really somebody that probably started like us, that actually got, you know, to a nice mid-level size. And that's all they do is reissue records. You know, they've done Slaughter, Stick It To You. They actually currently hold the license for that right now. And what they do is, and I don't want to slag on anybody, but I just feel like something, a lot of us that own those records from Friday Music feel like something's lacking. It's like they're almost putting them out just to have them out on vinyl.
Right.
You don't get any, you might get some remastering for specifically for vinyl. It might be okay, it might not. I know that my buddy Pat, as he said, has done some A-Being with an original Stick It To You with the Friday Music, and the original blows it away. And you're not always going to get that right, but you got to strive to get that right. So outside of the components of design to make this thing look like something that you would want as a fan, you also, in my opinion, or our opinion, have to get the audio right. Otherwise, you're just putting junk on plastic.
Right.
So you've got to go out and find a mastering engineer that knows how to master records properly, the audio properly, before it ever touches a pressing plant. And because when you're mastering for CD, it's completely different than when you're mastering for, and it's completely different when you're mastering for streaming as well. All of those things have to be mastered completely differently, or you're not going to have a pleasurable listening experience. And we've got, Pat and Mark Slaughter turned us on to this gentleman named Maor Applebaum, who's done, when I went to his website and looked at the amount of bands that he's done and the vast array of genres, from Dream Theater to Faith No More to Dokken to all of these really heavy bands to, some Latin American artists and stuff. He's mastered all of these people's records. And, I just reached out to him and told him what we wanted to do. He's not even a real big fan of the vinyl medium. He's like, it's a flawed medium, but it is a challenge to master it properly. And when you get it right, it's right.
So Jason, let me ask a question, because I'm sure there's people watching, listening that are not experts the way the two of you are, right? So something like Fear No Evil, right, that you guys are going to be putting out, you're saying it has to be remastered. What exactly, when you say remastered, what does that mean? It's not like increasing the bass level, the guitar, I don't think, right? You're not remixing.
No, you're not mixing.
Right.
You're not mixing. No one's taking 24 track tapes, which we did have access to the 24 track tapes of Fear No Evil, but nobody's taking 24 track tapes and doing that. What you're doing is, yes, tweaking bass and highs and mids and stuff like that is definitely a component. But there's a way to go in and make this audio breathable. When you're mastering for CD, you have to bring everything into a specific kind of frequency range, because if it's in vinyl frequency range, you're going to get distortion, so you've got to bring it within this frequency range. Well, what you don't want to do, like when I went to license Fear No Evil and they sent me their assets, basically they sent me a scan of the CD cover and the CD audio. And the first thing I did was take that and put it in this folder, and I never looked at it again, because that's not how you do this. Right. If you're taking CD audio, you can take CD audio and master it for vinyl, but you're not getting anything back that you lost when it was mastered for CD. So,
and when vinyl started its big comeback, that was common practice. That happened a lot because it's costly to go in and make these changes that, and go in and remaster, and why would we do that and all that sort of thing. But now I think that the public, the vinyl buying public over this last decade or 12 years or whatever it's been, has become more savvy as well. And you get a ton of people asking, what's the source?
That's right.
Who pressed it? All these different kind of variables that go into making this stuff sound as good as it can. You hear this term audiophile pressing. So we were trying to get as close to an audiophile level pressing as possible.
That's right.
So through this process.
So you go back and you try to get as close to the original source as you can. And sometimes that original source is going to only be digital, because when we get to Back to Reality, Slaughter's last studio album that they did, they recorded that on Pro Tools. Right. There's no tape there anywhere. So we want to go back as close as we can to the original source, which is really to take that Pro Tools audio, which all vinyl, I mean, all recordings are now anyway. If you're getting the new Taylor Swift, it's recorded on Pro Tools.
Sure.
And they just
remastered.
So
when you guys did Space Invader, I mean, that was never originally pressed on vinyl, right? So how did you handle something like that, remastering it?
Well, now with Space Invader, it's a little different story because we did that. The way that deal worked is different than the way these deals that we're working on now is. Basically, we licensed it from the label. The label had it mastered for vinyl. We didn't participate in that process. Basically, the money that we paid the label, we didn't just pay for licensing. We actually bought the record from the label. We told them, we want these 2 extra tracks, and they went back in and had them remastered for vinyl. They had them pressed. They had the jackets printed. Joe designed all of the covers, the slipcase, all of that stuff. We sent, I think we did a naked jacket. We said we want to do a foil naked jacket, take all the wording off of it because we're going to put the wording on the slipcase. And so we had the label have those jackets pressed. And then we have a gentleman named Tim up in Connecticut who is our fulfillment guy and our printer guy. Basically, he's the one that puts all of this stuff together for us. And he does a lot of printing for us, or he outsources a lot of printing for us.
Yeah, he's sort of like the back end liaison for fulfillment.
That's right.
Making sure that our vision is fulfilled from top to bottom. Like I'll talk to him about, what substrate should we print this on? Do we want to go foil? What's new and what's cool in the printing industry that we're not aware of? So he's become another integral part of what we do.
He'll send all kinds of samples and things to Joe, and Joe and I are on Zoom going, "Oh, how cool would that look if if this record was printed on that kind of paper." And
then Joe, I have to assume you go through that also for the booklet. That's it, right? Right now, you guys are putting books in
all of it.
So it's all of that, right?
All of it from top to bottom. Yeah, we're picking all of all the paper that we're using, the way that it's finished, all those kinds of things are all pieces and parts of what goes on. And just to quickly jump in, part of this whole process, I think we actually put a little video up of it. I think, Jason, when you and I sat up late one night and we were recreating the Slaughter logo from Fear No Evil from scratch, because we were still sort of going after different assets from different photographers and designers from back in the day. We didn't have that at the moment, so I was actually going through and recreating it, and we captured just a time lapse of just doing that one part. And I remember people commenting on the video going, "Oh my gosh, I had no idea what goes into all that," especially because from this time frame, you're asking artists who barely were digital at the time to go through these antiquated zip drives, or I mean the drives that can't even connect to modern computers anymore. Go up into hot attics, which literally happened. Guys in attics go, and they hadn't thought about this for 25 years, and so it's just it's an interesting part of the process. But Jason, you are heading down the road.
All parts of that has just oh man, I want to talk about this. I want to talk about this because we've never talked about it to anybody else but us two and Pat. But to go back to your original question, where I kind of veered off of, is the mastering process. So with the Slaughter, with Fear No Evil, actually all the Slaughter records, Slaughter was a completely self-contained band. They basically produced, recorded their own records, which is a blessing, because if you have a link to an artist that's willing to work with you, then you really have access to their master tapes. So basically we're taking mixed down masters that they sent off for the duplication process of the CD originally, and we're taking those and I have them retransferred. And so I have Dana Strums get out the tapes, box them up and ship them to a guy in California, Dan at Audio Archiving, and he transfers the tapes. One thing I was going to say is everything as far as vinyl goes now, unless you're doing something really high end like Mobile Fidelity and stuff like that, everybody's cutting vinyl from super high resolution digital audio files. like way higher resolution than it's really HD resolution. So it's like they're listening to it in the studio, and that's basically what most vinyl is being cut from now. I'd say all but maybe 5% out there. And so he's transferring these tapes into high resolution digital files, and he's sending these massive files back to me. And I go through, of course, I have the album, but then I go through and I pick out all the demos that I'm familiar with, that I want on the record, clear it with the guys, and then I send those files over to Maor, and Maor sits down with it and he masters it, and he takes 3 or 4 days.
So let me ask you a question there, Jason. Is the mastering process for the demos, or if you have live recordings, different than the studio version? So I have to think those demos are not as high quality to start off with compared to an album version.
Yeah, I personally can't go into what Maor does to those things, because I don't know what he does to, thicken them up or whatever he's doing. He's just try to make them sound as pleasant to the ear as possible. Right. When you get the Fear No Evil and you listen to the bonus record, all of the demos were recorded, the guitars were recorded on a Zoom. Now, if you don't know much about instruments, a Zoom is a little box that you would plug into, and you'd plug in and go out into your board, and it sounds like a guitar through a little box.
Right.
It's got a little buzz to it. And all of the Fear No Evil demos have that buzz, and you can't do anything about it. That's what it sounds like. Right. And so you just try to make that as warm as possible. You can't work any miracles with it, but it still sounds great.
Right. Well, that stuff was never intended to be released. Right. When they were doing that back in 1991, 2, 3, 4, they were never thinking, hey, one day we might put this on a vinyl. Right. So,
that's right. Or on anything.
Or on anything. Right. Exactly.
This is just, we're riding around in the car going, we should change this. We should do that. And you'll hear that when you hear some of these demos. You'll be like, whoa, that's not in the recording I remember, especially in Out of My Head. It's really cool. So, nice. But anyway, we've got the test pressings now, and which, if people, are in the group, they saw the test pressings, they saw the signing that we did on the jackets. We got the test pressings. I've sent a couple out to a couple of people to get their opinions, and they are all blown away at how good they sound. And that's not tooting my horn, that's tooting Maor's horn, because that guy can master records. So
and again, also the unprecedented access that we had with the band.
That's right.
They've just been so giving with all that stuff. They're like, oh yeah, we'll send the tapes, we'll pull it. They're spending their own time to go in. Where basically they could have said, well, you guys have the license, we're not doing anything with you guys. Sure. And that's what's happened. That's what happens to a lot of these bands. Like, I think it Sebastian Bach, Jason, who said, I didn't even know that there was a
Slave to the Grind.
Slave to the Grind was even coming out, an anniversary edition of any of these records. Like, they just don't know, because what happens is you go and you license, and that's all happening behind the artist. And we actually went to these guys and said, if you want, we would love you to be as involved as possible. And man, they have just, come up to bat and have just been absolutely fantastic at every turn.
They have. Now,
with them,
a big part of it is to make them a part of it, compensate them fairly, because when a label like Friday Music goes out and licenses Stick It To You, and I think Dana said they got an email saying, hey, this has been licensed, and that's it. They have no say. They have no say over quality. They have no say over content. They have no say over the audio, because they don't own their most artists don't own their records. That's why we're able to go out and license these things. They don't own their recordings. So,
and also why it's a big deal, like a band like Metallica owns all of its stuff, or the bands
who do
and Motley Crue, and why you see so much stuff come from bands like a Metallica, because they have the ability to kind of go back to the well and go, hey, we're going to put a box set out of all this stuff. They have a lot more
control.
They have a lot more control, and a lot more, what's the word I'm looking for? They have a lot more of an impetus to actually be involved in that stuff, because they're getting more of a financial reward.
They're getting all the reward.
Right. Than the pennies on the dollars that, unfortunately, a lot of these artists are getting by a label who doesn't even know quite frankly who they are, and that's quite literally happening to a lot of these artists.
That's exactly where I was going was, so you sell 1,000 Slaughter Stick It To Yous, and whatever their contract was at the time, they're getting their 0.002 cents on 1,000 records. It's they if they weren't told it was released and they got that check in the mail, they wouldn't even know what it was for. Right. They wouldn't even know why. So we reach out to them and say, hey, we want you to be involved. This is our idea of compensation for signing or participation or whatever. And they're getting way more money than they would have ever. And I'm not saying I'm not trying to say they're doing this for money, but I'm saying they feel like they're included and they see that we care and we're not just releasing a record just to release a record and make some money,
So let me ask you guys a question then. So when you're putting together like the package, and whether it's the box for a definitive edition, whether it's the book, like in Slaughter's case, are they involved in like, would maybe Mark or Dana say, no, hey, I don't like the way that box looks, or hey, I don't like page 7 in the book, or whatever it may be?
They could, but they haven't.
All right, well, that's good. But they're that involved.
Sure.
They are absolutely that involved.
Awesome.
Yeah. When we first went to them, we actually put a presentation together and sat with them on Zoom and said, this is our vision for this thing. This is how we think it could look. And this is what we think we could do down the road if this one's successful. And, I don't want to speak for them, but I think they were very pleased and flattered that people would care this much and actually include them, And let's go back to the compensation part of it. Jason says way more money. It's all relative, right? When you're getting 0.0002 cents on a record that's being sold versus what we're paying them. Yes, it's exponentially more, but Mark has said it in interviews, and we're going to say it too. And it's one of the things that Jason and I sit up at night thinking about, is that from a money perspective, there isn't a ton of money to be made here. So none of us are retiring. None of us are buying vacation homes or even tires for our car. So let's make that very clear.
We actually, we spend many nights texting each other, sweating about these things just before this. Like, are we going to be able to eke that out? Because it really, I hate to say it and sound cliche, but it's really a labor of love. It's like we want to be involved in putting something cool out that the fans will go, that's really freaking cool, man. Or the band says, like, I've got some videos from the signing where they were just praising Joe's work, and it brought a tear to my eye. I was like, man, that's how cool is that to have, I was 16 years old watching these guys open up for Kiss, and now here they are going, this is some of the coolest product I've ever seen in my life. That we never thought we'd see this record released. That's some humbling stuff, and
we have made multiple decisions late at night where we're like, should we include this or should we kill out of the box? And we say that's going to cost, let's make it up, I'm just making up a number, it's going to cost $3 more per box out of our pocket if we include a different finish, or we add more pages to the book, or we add another piece of ephemera or memorabilia in there, or whatever it is. And almost all the time we go, you know what? If we can do it within financial, we
just don't want to lose money.
Of course.
Right. We just don't want to lose money. But at the end of the day, we really are making decisions on whether or not to include those things. And 99.9% of the time, between Jason and I, we've gone, man, let's put it in. We would want it. Jason's like the biggest Slaughter fan ever. Yeah, he's like, I want to have these boxes in my hand. I want to see this book. And if I get that sort of a nod from Jason, then I know that we have to put it in there.
Right.
And obviously we can't include everything. We have such access to the band. The band would let us, do almost anything with the tapes that they have and the demos. I mean, they're so open and cool. We could put out a ton of stuff, but you need to, from a financial perspective, you need to be respectful of what people will want to pay for something like this, and also just be respectful of people's money and what you're asking them to pay.
Well, Joe, as you're talking, you know what I'm hearing? Fear No Evil, Volume 2. With the extras.
No. There was enough material.
I'm sure there is
to have probably included another demos record. And some of these releases for Slaughter are going to get thin. When we get to back to reality, the assets aren't there like they are for the Wildlife. Right. I mean, the Wildlife, is a nearly $1 million seller record that had hits on it. And there is promotion out the wazoo for it. It was following up a 3-4 million seller. Yep. And there is a lot of stuff to choose from, on the Wildlife. There's a little bit less to choose from for Fear No Evil. But when you get to Back to Reality in 99, there's not a lot there. I don't know how many demos the guys recorded for that record, but there may not be much there. Sure. So, we got to figure out how to make all, because we want to have box sets for all of them. We want it to be a collector's thing and have all 5 Slaughter studio albums in a box set with our logo on the corner, neatly lined up, over here.
One shelf for your Slaughter albums.
That's right. We really want that, So, so a little bit about Fear No Evil. I actually have a box here.
Before you do that, I want to give a shout out. I don't know which one of you guys this is, but one of the things I love that you guys seem to have accomplished, and I don't have it in hand yet, right? But a lot of people buy vinyl. Some buy it to listen, right? And they have their turntable, they listen to it. Others buy it to collect it because vinyls, the covers are great pieces of art.
Sure.
But on these definitive editions, you figured out a way, I think, to make people open them up, right? By throwing in, like in the Fear No Evil, the Ticket for Life and the Wildlife. What do you have? Oh, you have the signed photo from the era. That makes you as a fan say, I got to open this up because I got to see if I'm the lucky winner. And I just think that's brilliant marketing, brilliant. Whichever one of you guys thought it out, or band member, whoever thought of it, I think that's such a brilliant idea.
I'll take this one. It was Dana.
It was Dana. Yep.
It was in that. This is how involved the band is. We weren't even thinking about anything like that.
Nope.
And Dana was like, "How cool would it be if we offered somebody a golden ticket for life to come and see the band whenever they want, wherever they want? Obviously, Slaughter's not flying and paying for hotels or any of that sort of thing.
That's right.
But they'll be on the guest list for every show. Their name will be on there and they can walk through the door." And that was all Slaughter's idea. That was the band's idea. And Mark was all into it. And the more you get to know these guys and talk to these guys, they were doing meet and greets before meet and greets were a thing. And they would have lines of people at every show, and they would sit and sign as much stuff as anybody wanted, because honestly, a lot of bands say it, but yes, for free. This band is for the fans. And it's amazing, even to this day, for them to come up, because it seems like a marketing gimmick, right? It seems like, we're these marketing geniuses. No, man, this was the band coming up with it. And that's awesome. How giving they've been through this whole process. So kudos to those guys. We can't say it enough.
And when I said for free, they're mumbling. Mark Slaughter, to my knowledge, has still never charged a dime for a meet and greet. When he was at the Indie Expo,
yep, true,
you didn't have to pay to get an autograph from Mark Slaughter. And I'm not saying that artists shouldn't do that. I'm just saying that's pretty cool, because there's no album sales for hardly anybody anymore unless you're Adele.
Right.
What a good way to supplement your income is, people would pay 20, 25, 30, 40 bucks to get an autograph from Mark. Yeah. And if you've got, 200 people to do, that's a good payday, why not? But the guy, he just hasn't done it. He just hasn't done it. So, but I just wanted to show a little bit of it if you're interested.
Yes, absolutely.
So one thing as Jason's getting into this, one thing that we, because both of us are geniuses, we decided to start doing this just before or during a pandemic. And one of the incumbent issues that they're in is there's been a supply chain disaster, as we all know, in all of our lives, right?
Yep.
Whether it's paper towel or bread or whatever it's been, right? Just the weirdest things have just not been available. Well, the vinyl industry and the printing industry has not escaped that. And unfortunately, what we thought was going to be a 3-month journey became a 6-month journey. That became a 9-month journey. It's going to be around 9 months that it took from the genesis of us actually putting this thing on pre-order to actually getting it in hand. Because what Jason's basically going to show you now is the completed box. Mm-hmm. We're good to go. the thing that's conspicuously missing is the vinyl. And we have just been, it's been frustrating for us, and we know how frustrating it's been for our customers and the people who have supported us with this. So we want to thank them for their patience and their support through all this. It's really been stunning. There's been so few people who have either asked for a refund or people who have been upset. The reality is everybody has been so cool. We've been as transparent as possible. We've told people what's happening all along the way. We've sent out emails on our social channels, but look, it's going to have been almost a year. And that's a long time for anybody to wait.
For anything.
For anything. It has been nearly 100% out of our control.
Right.
It's been so unfortunate, especially with a project that we're so passionate about and that the band is so passionate about. And we're basically ambassadors for the band as well. And it's not lost on us that they could take possibly the brunt of some of that quote unquote blame that have been thrown around for supply chain issues that are completely out of everybody's control. But we just want to say really thank you for everybody for hanging in there.
Yeah,
and then supporting what we're doing next.
Mike's going to ask for a refund right after the show.
Okay, can I have my refund right now? I'm doing it on air.
On the show.
Right.
On the show, I want my refund.
That's right. We don't take refunds.
No, Joe, to your point, though, I mean, there's a couple of things I want to say with that. Number one, you'd have to be living under a rock if you don't understand that there are supply chain issues everywhere around the world, not just in America, everywhere around the world.
Absolutely.
With all different types of products. Couple that with the vinyl boom that has taken place in the last few years. It's almost like the perfect storm for guys like yourselves, where we have the pandemic, supply chain issues, mixed with people asking for and all artists requesting vinyl at levels that we haven't seen in decades.
Absolutely.
You mix those two things together, and something that you thought was going to take 3 or 6 or 9 months could take 12. I mean, look, even a band like Kiss, I know, I forget, what was it, Dress to Kill? When they went to release that, they were only able to press 400 of them because they couldn't press anymore at that time.
Where did you hear that? Where did you hear that?
One of these Facebook sites. Am I wrong?
Yeah,
you could correct me. All right, so correct me.
That was stated on a podcast by a gentleman, and that is incorrect.
I did not watch the podcast. I could say that.
I spoke when that thing went down. I spoke with someone close to Kiss.
Yeah.
Okay.
And was told they only ordered 300 copies.
Really?
And the reason they only ordered 300 copies is because that was the first release that Sound of Vinyl decided they weren't going to carry. Okay. And so they didn't think that KOL could move as many units without the Sound of Vinyl behind them. So they only pressed 300 copies, and it blew out the door. And then they had shipping issues and damage issues and returns issues and no way to replace them. And that's why that record has become, if anybody tells you anything else, and somebody has, they are wrong. I spoke to that person.
I sit here corrected, and I'm
not correcting you.
No, I'm glad you are. I don't mind being
that.
wrong. I'll run upstairs and ask my wife when's the last time I was wrong. She'd probably tell me about a half hour before this. So it's okay. I could be wrong. It's okay.
Yeah. No, it's not you.
No, I appreciate you correcting.
But what's interesting too about that story is look at Sound of Vinyl and Kiss Online and the organization. They're not even sure how these things are going to sell. So imagine how it is for a couple of guys like us up late at night thinking about, well, how is this going to do? How many should we do? What will people want? Like all that stuff. There's big decisions being made on all this stuff on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And for a band like Kiss to go, we just don't know how many we can sell on this record. It's pretty telling, from a collector's market and from a vinyl market.
Yeah, Sound of Vinyl had stagnated on some of the previous releases. They were stuck with a lot of product. I remember at the time Dynasties. I think most of that is sold through since then, but at the time they were still trying to get rid of Hot in the Shade and on blue and Dynasty on green and whatever, 6 releases on orange, Joe's favorite color. And they said, we're not going to carry it. And they didn't carry it. And that's it. They pressed 300 of them. It didn't have anything to do. Look, let me tell you, I work for a vinyl pressing plant. I actually work for the distribution arm of a vinyl pressing plant. If you get on the press, they're not going to go, 300's the most you can press.
Okay.
That's not how it works.
That's okay.
You put in an order, and they get you in line and they press how many records you pay for to be pressed.
Right.
It doesn't have anything to do with, we don't have the capacity to press 350 records. It's 300 for you. No, it doesn't work.
You know, and to that point, Jason, you were sharing with me before this about a specific artist that just recently requested, what was it? What did you say? Like 500,000 of
Adele. Yeah. The Sony, right? I think it was Sony requested half 1,000,000 records. And since we are Sony's main pressing plant and we are the largest pressing plant in North America with somewhere between, I don't know, 48, 59, 49, 50, 60 presses or something like that, depending on how many people we have working, up to 60 presses, that pretty much we press on average, I think it's 60,000 records a day. You know, it takes a long time to press 500,000 records when you are trying to press Adele, and you have to have some of those machines open pressing other labels and stuff too. So it just gums up the whole freaking industry, you know.
Right.
Well, then on top of it, throw COVID into the mix, where 8 pressmen are down with COVID, or they were all, you know, they were all in proximity with somebody, and now they're out. Whatever the time was, it could have been 7 days, 10 days. Presses are frozen, and now you have this 500,000 orders. So the whole thing has just been a complete disaster. And you, Mike, were asking prior. I don't have any insider knowledge. Jason would know more than I do, but I don't know if we're going to get through this in another year as far as vinyl goes, and really getting back to a point where, you know, where we can easily place orders, because it's just not happening right now.
The problem there, Mike, is it's a capacity issue. So as long as the demand sits where it sits or continues to go up, which it has every year for the past, 8 years or so,
and by huge percentages, it's been amazing.
Huge.
It's not 1% or 0.5%. It's 10. You know, it just goes up exponentially every year.
Yeah, sure. The thing is, no one's making presses, or I think there might be a small place making a few new presses, but there's nobody churning out, thousands of presses every couple of months or something like that, where people can go open new pressing plants. So if the demand keeps going up and your capacity is here, what happens? It just keeps backlogging. There's nothing you can do. So either one of three things is going to happen. Either somebody's going to say, we're going to open up pressing manufacturing facilities and make new presses, and new pressing plants will open up. That would be a huge undertaking.
Sure.
Or it's going to stay like it is, and everything is going to be backlogged for 7 to 12 months, 9 to 12 months, or the demand is going to start coming down.
Right. Well, you know, as you guys are talking, I'm just thinking this through, right? So if Adele ordered 500,000 albums, and it sounds like in a perfect world, you're saying, Jason, the plant could produce 68,000 albums a day.
That's what
in a perfect world, it would take them about 2 weeks to press.
If every single press was pressing
and
Adele,
that's what I was going to say, right?
24 hours a day, because we run 3 shifts, 24 hours a day.
And to Joe's point, if you don't have 5 people that are out on COVID and gone, right? So it could take 3-4 weeks potentially, where a majority of the plant is pressing Adele albums, and albums like yours, let's just say, is in the queue, and it's taking longer, and all it takes is Taylor Swift now to say, hey, now I need 500,000 albums, and the delay keeps happening and happening.
You hit the nail on the head, because they're not just every press is not just pressing Taylor Swift. They have to press, like I said, we're Sony's main pressing plant. Sony's not going to go, we need you to press all Adele records, and we're not going to press any other of our artists. It doesn't work like that. So you break it down to, whatever, 10 presses gets Adele. I'm just throwing a number out there. I have no idea what it is, because I don't work in the pressing plant. But 10 presses get Adele, and they've got to work on it, nothing but Adele. And instead of that being 3 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, it's actually 3 or 4 months. Right. And it just keeps gumming up and backing up and backing up. And it takes them 9 months to get to our 1,500 records that we need. And that's
let me ask you this question, Jason. You guys may not know this answer, and I totally respect. So, but when in order for Adele or Taylor Swift comes in, I'd have to think, maybe wrong, but I have to think that goes to the top of the list. That has to be priority because you got the Targets and the Walmarts saying, hey, we need this product for Thanksgiving, for the holidays, whatever it is. Am I wrong in thinking that?
Well, it's a good question. And I think there's probably some of that.
Mhm.
I'm not trying to throw my pressing plan and, my company that I work for under the bus. I think
that makes business sense to me.
It does make business sense.
It's an economic reality.
Of course
it is.
There's nothing wrong with that to me.
Our 1,500 records mean nothing. I mean, it means something to them, but it's not their top priority. That being said, I have been told by the woman who runs customer service, who's been at United Record Pressing for 33 years, that they try to split everything in thirds. So, and you get a third goes to Sony, a third goes to Universal, and a third goes to Indies. And we're in the indie third. And everybody, it goes down the list. It's just everybody wants so many records, and there are so many being pressed that it takes forever. And one of the big things that takes a long time that not a lot of places do is the actual metal plates. I think what I've been told is I think we can only produce, our pressing plant is a top to bottom plant. Like you place your order, you get your, you get it cut to lathe, you get it, the plates made, you get the pressings done. They do the jackets, they do the stickering, they do the shrinking, top to bottom, A to B. You don't do outside stuff. Like some plants only press, and you have to go get your metal plating done at a place that only does plates. We do it all. But I think I was told that our plant, because the process is so manual, and if you haven't watched one, you should go watch one on YouTube of how they make those plates sometimes. I think I was told our plant can make 6 or maybe 8 plates a day maximum. So there's actually where the biggest backlog is,
right?
Because when you're pressing 500,000 records, you're not just making 2 plates,
right?
You're making dozens and dozens of plates,
sure.
And then you've got all these other bands, and you've got a guy back there with headphones cutting doing the lathe and cutting these records, and it's a hell of a process. And back in the 70s, when millions of records were being pressed, there were hundreds and hundreds of pressing plants that were as large or larger than ours.
Right.
And that's why you have like all these variants on Kiss Alive 2, because the damn things were pressed in 12 different plants, or how many ever it was,
Now, my impression, again, not being the vinyl expert the way you guys are, is though the plants back then, the quality of these albums were much cheaper. They were thin, they were flimsy. Sure. I don't know if they were just rushing them through the plants to get them out, and there's much more
they were
quality control now.
Literally millions of these things. Right. I mean, it's astonishing the production that must have been happening back in the 70s, and the way that they were just ripping through the manufacturing process of these things. Yeah. It's the actual vinyl. What was it? 130 grams sometimes, Jason, and now we're looking at
120,
even less, 120. So, and we're looking at, a lot of times 130, 40, 50, 180 is kind of like a standard for an audiophile pressing. 200 gram can be another standard for an audiophile pressing. So, I think it's interesting. It's changed a lot, but it's not changed at all, if that makes any sense. I'm sure they were doing that for all the cost cutting measures back in the day, because they were spending so much on all the chemicals that needed to go in to make the plastics and all the stuff that goes into it, and really the only medium that was out there. So they just churned these things out literally by the millions. It would almost it's like if we all stopped and went, oh, we all now need wooden wheels for our cars, and everybody's like, what do you mean wooden wheels? We dropped this 50 years ago, and they're like, no, wooden wheels are the thing because it sounds better. And it's clearer, and we love that, it's so much. The drive is so much warmer, and everybody's like, there are no wooden spoken wheel plants left anymore. And now everybody's like, where the hell is my wooden spoken wheel? And you're like, well, Adele just ordered 500,000 wooden spokes and wheels, and but I mean, it's kind of like that, right? And it's like the whole
what an analogy.
I think the industry has been completely surprised by the fact that vinyl has made such a huge, and I think that the investment hasn't been there, largely because the companies aren't even there to make this stuff. It would be like, you're almost having to recreate an industry from the ashes from what it was before, because you just can't go and make new presses. And it's such a laborious, and I mean, it's pressure and heat and time and chemicals, and just think it's really like a factory mentality in there.
Yep.
And there's really no other way to do it as of yet. And so you're literally going back to the 30s and 40s and earlier to go back to this sort of a technique for creating things. And now you throw in COVID and all the other things that have happened, and it's just, it's been interesting to say the least.
Yeah. And you know what? I originally, when vinyl started to take off again, I thought it was going to be a short-lived thing. I said, 3-5 years, vinyl will be out again. But I no longer believe that at all. And I point to not the people like us. I point to the younger generation who is now buying albums that never did before, and I think vinyl is here to stay, and I think it's going to keep just going up year after year after year at this point.
Yeah, it's the physical medium that has essentially won the long battle that had been raging with CD, and I don't know what wasn't there like mini disc for a minute, and even cassettes. Like it was the industry's desire to become as mobile as possible. Once the iPhone hit and you could have all of your music, or I guess the iPod at the time, once you could have all your music in your pocket, all your music in your pocket, that killed any need for mobility anymore. But then there was the connection that was missed, and I think it kind of goes back to what we're talking about with the tangible assets and what makes this experience special. Something that we're always talking about when we're creating these projects. It's not zeros and ones that are being streamed into your phone over a cellular line or Wi-Fi or whatever. It's an actual tangible thing, and people can go, oh, that's mine. Whereas with streaming, it's this nebulous sort of impersonal sort of thing.
Yeah, no, and look, I think streaming's good. Like if I'm in the car and I want to listen to music and I have it in my pocket, that's great. But nothing beats, and I was just talking about this today during one of my, nothing beats sitting on your rug in your living room or your bedroom, or sitting on your couch, opening up the album, getting the sleeve out, seeing the lyrics in there. Maybe now with some of the products you guys have, you have a nice book, you got the record on, you got these things in your hands. Nothing
it's a whole experience.
It's a whole experience. Absolutely. It's a whole experience.
And here's the actual jacket.
What are you stealing my damn thunder?
I'm stealing your thunder.
Joe's like, I'm going to get Jason to the point here.
Hey, the one I'm going to show is signed. So,
but it's that's right. But it's true. It's like it smells a certain way. It brings you back. If you were a vinyl guy or girl back in the day, it smells a certain way. The way it opens. So here's the cover of Fear No Evil.
Yep.
We went in and painstakingly recreated everything from scratch, including. Now, go ahead, Jason.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I want to say that when we say painstakingly recreate, we don't mean just digitally taking that. We didn't scan a CD cover and blow it up or anything like that, or just scan the record and reprint it, or the CD and reprint it or whatever. We went to every single photographer and designer that worked on that record in 1995. I literally opened up the liner notes and I found every single name, and Pat knew a couple of them, but outside of that, I was looking up these guys on LinkedIn, and half of them were retired, and I sent emails to every one of these guys, and by God, if I didn't get a response from every single person, single person, and we weren't able to find everything, but we were able to find maybe the original vector for the logo after Joe had already recreated it.
After we had recreated it.
And different pieces of this, jacket. We found like the original photo of the girl's face before it was retouched for the jacket, which is in the book. And
so you basically did everything short of finding the girl and the snake again.
We
did
not find them.
I'm being told by the control room we did not touch.
That's right. So we got all of those elements that we could and sent them to Joe, and Joe and a friend of his worked on this, and now you can take it away on the cover, Joe.
So ironically, the cover image was something that we couldn't locate. We had the outtake cover image, but we didn't have this cover image. So yeah, we had to do a ton of work to get this, because all the assets we had were at this size. And if you know anything about sort of scanning something that's already been printed, it's a disaster. So we really had to go in and painstakingly recreate and retouch all of this.
Look at the Mylar in this, how that's done.
You guys, this is absolutely,
isn't that phenomenal?
Incredible.
Yeah, it's great.
So we made decisions like this, like putting the Slaughter logo in foil there. We could have easily left this white and it would have cost us less and it would have meant more money in all of our pockets. Right. But we decided we wanted to add this finish to it, not only on the front, but when you look on the back, it's also on the back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so, nice. So you have that there. So, and all of these jackets as we're going forward will be consistent on the back. So all of these records will look the same on the back, which will be pretty cool from a design perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And then just to open it and kind of show you what you get in there as well. So you get a big gatefold, nice photo of the band, awesome. all the sort of the credits from the original version, and then the re-release version that we're doing here. So that kind of gives you an idea, and then the kind of love and care that we're putting.
And before you put it down, to me, just through a camera right here and looking on the computer screen, that just seems to shine, and the image just looks like crystal. That photo could have been taken 5 minutes before. It looks crystal clear. I mean, that thing looks like it was. I know it was made today, but that photo, you'd never know that was from the 90s.
Well, what they were trying to create with primitive, quote unquote Photoshop skills back then, and digital editing, they were trying to, if you look at the original CD, I don't have it near me, but you can tell they're trying to make a silver kind of shiny looking logo, and it just didn't work.
Right.
We knew that the intent was there. They kind of made it, they were like, we want to make it look shiny, but we don't have the ability to do it. So they kind of did it in a vectory sort of digital way, and it just wasn't maybe as convincing as they would have hoped. Right. So that's part of the decision-making process when we're going through. It's like they wanted it to be silver originally or look metallic. So let's go ahead and make it metallic, because if they had had the chance to do it back in the day, that's what this thing would have looked like.
Sure. And again, and I could be totally off base here, but looking at you holding that looks like it's made of use all the wrong terminology. Sorry. Like a thicker, a cardboard type of jacket. Like some of the jackets I have from the 70s are cheap, flimsy, thin, almost like paper. Like that looks like it's like a real sturdy piece of.
But I think you get that. I think you get that with a lot of jackets these days too. These jackets were printed in Canada, and the company that does the jacket printing in Canada is one of the top. In fact, you were just talking about this gentleman, and I won't give anything away, but if you look, this is Ty Tabor's new album that I just got.
Yep.
And if you look,
made in Canada. Yep.
Made in Canada. So, they're a top-notch company, and that's who our pressing plant uses to press jackets, and
that's my point, Jason, of bringing it up, is that you guys, I'm sure there are places out there that would make jackets for cheaper quality, half the cost, but you're going the same places the guys in the industry, the big name guys go.
Oh yeah,
that's where you're going to get your jackets done also.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a handful of quality pressing plants and jacket makers out there, and surely the oldest company in United Record Pressing is one of them, but places like Third Man and Furnace and RTI and QRP, those are all top of the line pressing plants. They're amazing, and we could go with any one of them and put out this kind of product. You really can. Third Man's fantastic, and QRP they do high-end jazzes. QRP did all the Kiss 2014s, so they're quality places. We go with my company because I'm here.
Sure, it makes sense.
And Mark is here, and it's so easy to the jackets were there, and we just drove over and picked them up, took them and had them signed and brought them back to the pressing plant. We didn't have to ship them. That was 1-2 less chances of getting them dinged up.
Well, I'm glad you just said that, Jason, because and again, I could be wrong, but I thought I saw you post, or maybe you told me, I don't remember. Were you having like specific shipping boxes created?
Yes, I was just about to show you that.
Oh, you see that? I knew exactly where you were going.
So we had boxes, made Joe and Tim got together on this, and we measured out what needed to be done. And so when you ordered Fear No Evil, or when you order the Wildlife, which we haven't even talked about yet.
And we will.
I'm gonna have you tag that in on the first or something. Yeah. What you're gonna get it in this box. So if you ordered Fear No Evil, the box set, and a standard, the standard is going to be in a separate box. It's going to be in a separate record mailer, because this is it by itself. And where this idea came from is the book that Nicholas Buckland and Joe worked on with Tim as well, our same guy. They had special boxes made, so there were no damages on those Hottest Brand in the Land books.
Yep.
And I don't think, even to date, what are we, 2 years out on the book? Even to date, there has, or maybe 3 years out, I don't know. There has
2 or 3 years now.
Yeah, there's not been a single damage. So we're hoping the same thing is going to happen here. That's all right. So it opens up, and the box is in here inside of these pads here, and it's got this little. It'll come with this little thing over it like this.
Yeah.
So it'll be housed in this box like this.
Nice.
So hopefully it arrives to you with no damage. So
looks impressive.
So let's take it out of this thing, because that's hard to show. So the box, here's your box, right? And this is Joe can probably talk a little bit more about what kind of treatment is on this.
So there's if you look on the outer sort of border there, the black, you can kind of see it's a little bit more matte. So that has a different touch and feel to it.
Very soft.
Yeah, then the actual record itself, so there's like a high gloss finish put over the record. So we kind of shrunk it down. Again, you have the high end sort of metallic touch as well on the logo, and the surrounding holding line there, and then the words Definitive Edition on the front are also in the metallic on the bottom there as well.
Is that backwards to you guys, or right?
No, it looks right to me, and I can say
good.
it's definitely you can tell there's a nice gloss on this, because I see my reflection in your computer screen on the album there.
Mike.
Hey, hi, mate.
Yeah.
Totally. I can see myself in that reflection.
Yeah, so you can see how the gloss sort of stops as I'm moving it along there. So
amazing. Yep.
And then we have that same silver on the spine here, along with our logos. So all of these will line up like this, and then they will all be numbered on the back. So, and then when you get on the inside of this thing, so you open up the box, and you're going to have, now this is preliminary, we're going to have like a black envelope, but on the inside, you're going to get these black and white photos.
Yep.
And that'll be pretty cool.
That was one thing that was fun when the band was signing them. They commented on
you were supposed to tell them they were signed.
How I didn't say the photos were signed. I said that when the band were signing them. That they commented on how cool the paper was that was chosen for those glossies. It's like this really nice kind of matte texture. Yeah. They're really heavy. It's like this very cool photo paper.
Yeah, and Joe, awesome. That's one of the things to me, and I remember with the Space Invader, and you can see it just by what you guys are showing. Everything in the box to me just feels rich. Is the only word I could think of, right? It's just
rich,
there's no expense seems to be spared. There's not anything that you're showing that I'm like, oh, that was done cheaply or whatever. Everything from the print to the cover to the pictures, you name it, just everything just seems like it was done top shelf.
Thank you.
Thanks. We appreciate it. Yeah.
We replicated this pass, and it's not cheap either. It actually has kind of a
I can hear it
texture to it.
So what we wanted to do there was actually recreate what the backstage pass might feel like. So we chose a substrate that actually had that kind of like old school kind of feel to it, So it's not quite the same material, but it has that feel to it, and it's actually a sticker, so you can actually pull it and actually, if you wanted to, put it on a jacket or whatever. So it's pretty cool as well.
Wait a second. That's a sticker?
Yeah.
I didn't know learning about his own box set right here.
There's surprises in here, even to the guy who helped create it.
That's great.
That's his department. I didn't even know that. So I'm serious. I didn't know that. So, and then, we created a book, and as you can see, black and white is it's the theme of the record. that was just kind of their thing. So we created this book, and it's how many pages, Joe? Is it
48?
48.
Nice.
And I'm not going to show everything, but there's just a lot. Like, since we have access to the master 24 track reels and stuff, we had Carol Lucero, Pat's wife, take lots of photos and stuff. Pat scanned all of these pics, and Joe, lined them all up and stuff like that. But there's, lots of unseen. I'm not going to show that. Here's the original album cover photo. We'll leave that.
Yeah, leave that.
The rejected album cover art that Joe rebuilt from the original files. This is the photo that's originally, it's on the back of the album.
Yep.
It was originally on the back of the CD. It's kind of the center of this whole thing, but there's lots of cool stuff. Here's a DAT tape, I think, of demos that Dana took a picture of for, and then also the lyrics are all in here.
Awesome.
I know most of the lyrics to all the songs on this record, but sometimes it's tough, and they weren't included in the original album, and the ones that exist online are kind of close but not right. So I sat down for hours listening to line after line, just redictate it, just making sure I got every single word right.
And I still think there's something, even if I know the words, there's still something cool about just sitting there with the lyrics in front of you, whether, like I said before, whether it's on my bed, my couch, my rug, whatever, just reading along as I listen. I think that's part of the experience.
And when you stumble across a typo, you know that it'll be on me. So there you go. You'll know exactly.
There you go. And I'm sure everybody online will let you know, Joe. Hey, you missed one letter over here.
That's right. So here's the cover that Joe created from scratch for the demos record. And, we had these handwritten out. And, so you've got all the demo songs that are on there, and people have asked for track listings, and I don't think I've ever posted it. So if you made it this far, there's the track listing for the demos,
There you go.
And,
nice.
And then Joe, we took kind of that photo and put it on the back, this, all handwritten here. And, mine has test pressings in it. So
very cool. Very cool.
And then of course, Joe has showed. Also, these will be in black polylined inner sleeves, not white. This is what the test pressings came in.
Right.
So, Joe showed this beauty, but he didn't show it like this, baby. This will be shrink wrapped, signatures under the shrink.
Nice.
In your box set. So if you want to see your signatures, you have to open this box.
And they're nice, big signatures. They
did
and nice signatures also.
A wonderful job. I touched every single record. I was right beside Mark. We set up in a big U. Pat was feeding the jackets. Bloss was first. Dana was in the middle. Mark was at the end. And I sat there and took them from Mark and stacked them. And then Carol took them and put them in boxes. And that was our assembly line. And I looked at every single signature, and I didn't see one smear, anything that was bad. So
it was funny when we first interviewed Mark and talked about this whole thing, when we were setting this whole thing up for pre-order and kind of talking about it. He originally said the surviving members of the band are going to get together in a room, and we're going to sign these records with love, because we know how important this is to our fans, and we're so excited. And man, they came through exactly like that. They all sat there. They had a good time. They were listening to music. I unfortunately couldn't be there. Jason was there. It was just so cool. And it's so great to see artists take their time and be that respectful with what they're turning over to the fans. It was really cool and really, really rewarding after having worked so hard on it to have the band take their time and be as cool as they were about it. And they were fun to work with for sure.
Yeah, we flew
and continue to be.
Yeah, we flew Dana and Bloss in together and had them curried over from the airport and put them up in a hotel in south of Nashville, and rented out a room. And Pat and Carol and their daughter Julia and I all went there in the morning and set everything up. And it takes a long time to sign that many autographs, so we were there for a little over 4 hours doing it. It's a long day of work. So, but it was fun.
But the product speaks for itself to me. Now, one thing I will say, and this is, I'll say, bad news for the fans, great news for you guys. That definitive edition of Fear No Evil is sold out, right?
Oh yeah. It's been sold out.
Yeah, which is, I think, which I think is great news for you guys. And I bring that up because you mentioned before that we haven't really spoken about the wildlife, and I'm just going to say this: don't snooze on ordering the wildlife, because that was me almost with Fear No Evil. I was like, oh yeah, I'll order it. And then I saw you post like, hey, there's only 5 left. I'm like, holy shit. And I had company in my house barbecuing, and I just dropped literally, and I was the one barbecuing. I dropped what I was doing. The hell if the steaks are overcooked. And I just started placing my order, and you messaged me, said, you got the second to last one.
That's right. You got the second to last one.
Yeah.
Right.
So don't be a Brunn. Don't make that mistake. Okay.
Don't be a Brunn.
Don't be a Brunn.
that should turn into a thing. Well, I'll tell you, we did a soft opening because we had a deadline to meet. Now, again, full disclosure for the people that haven't ordered with us, as we have spent the last 2 hours talking about, we are still waiting on the vinyl for Fear No Evil. Yep. And we are told that we should have them in our hands by the end of March, by the end of this month.
Excellent.
So we will send them to Tim in Connecticut and start assembly and start shipping immediately after that.
And I want to make sure I clarify one thing for the people watching and listening. You got to remember that all these production issues that we're saying that happened with pressing vinyl and all that, the post office also has their fair share of issues.
I can't bash the post office because they pay my mortgage. So
okay.
My wife is a mail carrier.
The cycle goes from, did you get my order? Which we respond yes to. Yes. Where's my order? It's coming. And then, did you ship my order yet? Like, that's sort of the cycle. But we're happy to answer those questions, and we've been happily doing it all along. We'll continue to be as transparent as possible. Watch our social networks, our Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all that stuff. And the people who have ordered, we're sending out continual emails whenever anything new happens. We let people know, and people have been so cool because they've said, thanks for letting us know. We wish that everybody else was as transparent as you guys are.
Right.
And honestly, we can't say we're more frustrated than you are that it's taken as long as it has, but we are certainly very frustrated, and we're working very hard with the powers that be to get these things pushed out and in your hands, because we're dying for you guys to have these in your hands.
But Joe, I think you hit the key word there, the T word, transparent, right? And I think that's really just what fans are looking for, transparency. I think I'd like to think 99.9% of the people understand the world that we're living in, and that these things are out of your control. I think fans just like to know that they're not forgotten about. And I think you guys do an amazing job with that, just to be transparent. Every time you've got, like Jason, when you've got the empty boxes, you're like, hey, I got the empty boxes. When the jacket came in, hey, I got the jacket, right? I mean, you'd really have to be asleep if you didn't know that this was still progressing along.
And
right?
Still every day I get an email that says, I haven't heard anything about the wildlife in like months, or not the wildlife, Fear No Evil in months. And I always respond and say, thanks for your email. Are you following us on our social medias? Because we have definitely, posted. Also, we've sent out emails, and a lot of those emails through our web store, unfortunately, end up in some people's spam. And they don't see them. Yep. So you can only do so much to communicate short of calling these people. And I have some of their phone numbers. They provide them. So I guess I could, but man, that's a lot of calling, but we do the best we do the best we can. Right. I mean, I've got at least $500 worth of KISS pre-orders outstanding right now, right, with the Elder picture discs and the Rock and Roll Over picture discs and all of that stuff. And they're going through the same thing. And we're just waiting. And nobody is sending me an email, giving me an update about anything.
And I'll say this, Jason, and you're not going to say this, and Joe not going to say this, but I'm going to say this, right? If you're a fan who ordered this and you think you haven't heard anything, go on Facebook.
Yep.
Go on Kiss My Wax, and in the little search bar on top, Fear No Evil, hit enter, and you're going to see all the posts that you guys have made that says, I got the box, I got the giant, and you're going to have your update. Because look, let's be honest, social media, sometimes the way the feed works, I might see it, you might not, right? So I'm not criticizing if somebody doesn't see it, but there's a little search bar over there. And if you search, you're going to see that you guys are constantly giving updates.
don't wait for it to pop up in your news feed. If you need an update, just go to Kiss My Wax Records on Facebook. I post there all the time. Yep. Any update that we have, I post on our Instagram too. So if we have an update and we deem it important enough to share with the customer, it gets posted. And if you just search for those Kiss My Wax Records on either of those two places and go to those pages, you will see that information.
Yep.
So
100%.
Among this information that we're about to talk about.
And that's exactly where I was going to go next, right? The wildlife. Let's go there.
It was the whole reason why I wanted to do the podcast, and it's the last thing we talk about. So.
But yeah, well, you know, that's your fault. I asked you where you wanted to start. So.
I know.
So you only can blame yourself.
Well, it's honestly, it's a touchy subject for us because we, in all transparency, as we like to try and be, we were sort of between a rock and a hard place. We had reached out. Is it a year ago now, Jason? Longer than that, for the license on the wildlife.
That was the end of October of 2020.
Yeah, so you can see how long it had been, and they said, "Cool," but so it's a different publishing company who owns that record than owns what is it? Revolution and Fear No Evil and Back to Reality. Right. So we had to go to a separate company for the wildlife. And they gave us an amount of time and they said, yes, we'll respect that you guys want this, but you have a bracket of time. And once that time was up, we found out the straits that Fear No Evil was in. Right.
That's right.
And we went back to them and we said, hey, look, we haven't been able to put out this first product yet. We can't go ahead and pay for the licensing and go forward. It wouldn't be right for our customers. It wouldn't be right to do that. Can we kick this out another 6 months? Which we did. And they very nicely said, yeah, you guys can do that. No problem. And
I want to add one thing, Joe, to what you're saying. Yeah. So one of the times Jason was on was last June when him and Mark appeared on my show to talk about the Fear No Evil. And in that episode, Jason, you said the wildlife is coming, like, I forget the word, and I'll say right around the corner. And obviously you guys did put it off some, right? So
we put it off as much as they would allow us. And that's where Joe is going.
Exactly. And I'm just reiterating that point that last June, you thought it was around the corner, that then, this all just continues to get extended out.
It all goes back to timeline. Yep. You used to be able to license a record, design it, put it together, put a plan in place, put your order in to press your vinyl, and you could have this done in 3-4 months max, 6 months maximum. Yep. But 3 or 4 months, you could turn something around. And Joe and I thought when we started this that we were going to be, and we even work in this industry, we thought we were going to be putting out 2 boxes a year and we'd be done with Slaughter in 2 years. That's what we thought.
Yeah.
And that's not how it's turned out. But go ahead, Joe.
Right. Yeah. Sorry, Joe, I cut you off. Yep.
No, it's all right. So we asked the licensing company yet again, can we kick this down the road again? And they very nicely said yes. So it got to the 3rd or 4th time of asking them for an extension, and we just weren't able to do it.
Yeah,
we needed. Go ahead.
They said the end of February. Go ahead, Joe.
Sorry. Yeah. So we had to make the hard decision. Mm-hmm. Do we either let this sort of licensing hold lapse and possibly let somebody else take it, and now we're not able to fulfill our goal of putting out all these boxes, or do we begrudgingly, and that honestly is the way we're super excited about this. So don't get it twisted. The band's super excited. We're all super excited to be putting out this next record. It's just not the timing or the circumstance that we would have wished for. But again, it's a circumstance beyond our control. And in order to pay for a lot of these upfront costs that we have, because it's a 2-person organization, we needed some of that income to help offset some of those costs to be able to get the ball rolling on this project. So Joe, that's when we made the.
Go ahead, finish. No, finish.
That's when we made the extremely hard decision that we went back to the band and made it clear to them what was happening. They were on board. They wanted to hold off in some respects, which we totally understand. Yep. And we decided, hey, we have to, but with the band's blessing, they said, go ahead and put it out. And we support you, and it's just where we are. So just please know that if you're a supporter of ours, or if you've been thinking about getting one of these boxes or jumping in with us, this is not the way we wanted it to come out. We wanted these things to come out in fairly rapid succession and sort of have the project wrapped up.
Right. So what I was going to ask you though is, so when you're talking about the license and you have till February, is that to put the product on sale? It's obviously not to have a physical product in hand. So, just so people like myself, because I don't understand the license inside, and if you don't want to get into the business side,
I'll take this.
I fully understand.
I actually did want to talk about this because you've run into this. A lot of people that are watching this are probably in our KISS fandom here, right?
Yep.
And you know that a lot of people do projects, and whether it's book projects or record projects or things like that. And most of them fund their projects via pre-orders. So the way that works is, you design a product and you advertise the product, you put the product on sale, you've figured out your budget, what your break even is. We've got to hit this number to produce the project. Everything else over that is profit, sort of thing. And you put the thing on sale, and if it sells well, you hit your break even, and then you start paying all of these people to produce your project, which is exactly how our business model is. And one thing that I want to speak to is this misnomer error has been talked about. We use PayPal to do our pre-orders and fund our projects. It has been mistakenly said that if you have 20 days to do a pre-sale on PayPal and you have to deliver the product. That is not true at all. And so the way it works is, and the way that we have dealt with PayPal,
I guess we should say it's not true in our experience.
Okay, it's not true in our experience. Thank you, Joe. And I think that they probably pick and choose. But when I got on the phone with PayPal, and when a bunch of funds start coming in, they go zoop and they lock it up, and they want to know why this amount of money has come into your PayPal account. And you get on the phone with them. Actually, I preempt and get on the phone with them beforehand. And they say, they send me a document dump upload and say, upload your invoices or
prove it, essentially.
Prove it and upload your licensing agreement. And when we have all of that in place, you can do your pre-orders. We have no problems with it. And our funds have not been on hold. We have never had any issues paying any vendors. And that's the way our business model works. So to speak to this situation, Joe talking about, can we kick this can down the road a little bit? Because with licensing with Universal on the wildlife, we didn't want to put the wildlife on pre-sale before we had delivered Fear No Evil. Right. But Universal gave us an extension, gave us another extension, and they finally said, guys, use
it or lose it, essentially.
That's right. You've got to have payment to us by February, the last day in February, or it goes back into the licensing pool.
And from their point of view, I could understand that from their point of view, right?
Absolutely, you can understand.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is a business for them also.
That's right. And they might not have given us the license back if we would have reapplied, because they said, hey, we've already been through this. So we Joe and I knew that date, and we sat down and we did the design together, and he put all the stuff together. We decided what was going to be in there. We took photos. You talked to the band, got everybody's input, and we put the ads together, and we put it on pre-sale on the 17th of February. And we did it like a soft on sale. We're not going hard with Mark and the band right now,
and the marketing and the advertising and all that kind of stuff.
We just basically advertised to our previous customers that bought Fear No Evil, sent out a cool email, gave them first dibs, and it went swimmingly well. And we've already,
and there was a little surprise in the email too, which was cool.
That's right. Did you get your email?
I missed that. No, it's because I read it on Facebook, so I probably never even opened the email because I checked the Facebook feed that you guys do, so I saw it there. So no, I did not see the email.
I bet it's in your spam. bet it's
That's
No,
right.
I'm sure it's not. I'm bad with email. I don't check it.
So this is what you missed, Mike. We sent out an email and said
Well, I
we're
almost
giving
don't want you to tell me. Maybe I'll cover my ears while you say it. So
No,
I
we're
can
going to
fix
tell
it.
you. So we sent a link to to download a demo track that's not going to be on the record, and
Man, I
we
missed
entered everybody into a contest to win signed test pressings.
So I did see that actually online that you were saying that.
Well, that was what the email was. So
Gotcha.
If you purchased, I think you had 24 hours or something like that. If you went ahead and purchased any version of the Wildlife,
Okay.
or anything off of our website, because Fear No Evil standards are still available.
Yep.
You got entered into that contest, and we gave away, a set of test pressings. Fear No Evil signed, all 3 jackets signed,
Which is awesome.
Yeah. But anyway, that's where we are, and that's we're Dana is getting tapes together right now for me to send off to our tape transfer guy Dan, and then we're taking those transfers, picking the tracks on the bonus records and sending them to Maor to have them mastered. So we're already deep into that process.
Right.
Licensing is paid for and all of that. So
And let me just add this, Jason. So obviously, because of something that happened with a book over the last 4 or 5 years, I know that just seemed to disappear. I'm going to say,
Right.
I think some fans have been hesitant now
Absolutely.
to put money out, and I'm assuming whether it's you, whether it's other people that are putting out other products, you guys feel that where people are just nervous to pre-order something now. But I'm going to just say this. You have a track record that other person did not, right?
That's true.
You have a track record, whether it's Space Invader, which I praise everywhere I can. Fear No Evil is I mean, you've been so transparent with every piece of the puzzle here. You're not going through all of that to not put out these albums, right?
That's right.
In my opinion, people have zero to worry about with pre-ordering, whether it's the Wildlife, Fear No Evil, whatever, because you have a track record, a proven track record, which is very different than somebody who's trying to do something for the first time. And for whatever his reasons, I don't even want to get into it, just didn't happen, lost the transparency. That is so different than what you guys have. And I say to my viewers and listeners, you have nothing to worry about if you pre-order with these guys.
Thank you. Thank you.
We appreciate that. Thanks.
We do.
But we also understand, and look, it was part of the pre-order for the Wildlife. Part of our trepidation around it was, are people going to say, we don't even have the first one yet? And then as we discussed,
and they have,
some people have, and we don't even blame them for that. But on the other hand, we looked at it like, hey, if we're becoming a full-fledged record label, we're going to be rolling out multiple releases by multiple bands. And there are other bands that we have licensed other records for that we're extremely excited to put out in whatever version or form those come out in. But we would be releasing multiple, it would be like Prince's Trust saying, we're only going to release 1999 and not Purple Rain. We're going to wait until everybody has 1999 before we do Purple Rain. We understand that it's a big financial undertaking, to pre-order one of these and then have to wait the amount of time that it's just taking for these things to get done. But on the other hand, moving forward as a record label, we're going to hopefully try and cascade more of these releases at a brisker pace than we've been able to up till now.
And something else we haven't spoken to is, it's not like we did Slaughter and then we did, Kicks or something we were talking about earlier. We did Slaughter and we're doing Slaughter again. So we're going back to the same fan base and asking them, the people in the KISS community may know Joe and I and trust Joe and I, but the people in the Slaughter community don't know who we are.
Right.
So, you're going back to them and saying, can you spend another $50 on this standard or another $200 on this box set when you've spent $150 on this box set and we haven't even shipped it to you yet? So that's why we have to be super transparent with everybody, because it's just, the nature of the industry now.
Sure.
Where everything's set.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we've done all this talking about the product. Where do people find your product? I think we should make sure that they know that, right?
Right now the Wildlife is on pre-sale, and it's treated essentially like Fear No Evil. There is a box set component, It's a little more expensive this time than Fear No Evil was because, like I was saying early on, we had access to way more assets. So we're putting a few more things into this one that we're not putting. We're reproducing the press kit. We're doing stickers and buttons and books.
There's an extra record in this one.
I was gonna say this one's 4, right?
It's
Right.
4
this
LPs.
one's 4 records, yeah, which is really cool. Again, it's signed by the band in a limited edition sort of way. It'll come in the same type of box so that all these are consistent as they sit next to each other. There will be some differences in them, but there will be a consistency along the way. So there's just kind of more and more there because we did have access to more. And again, it was that conversation that Jason and I would have late at night. What do we want to do? We want to go with 4 records. It's going to be more expensive, but I don't want to say a real fan, but you understand where I'm going with this.
Sure.
Would a diehard Slaughter fan would they love to hear this live audio, which will blow your minds? Do they want to hear demos? Of course. The people are ravenous for this kind of stuff, especially in the quality that Slaughter has it because they produced it all themselves. It's all absolutely top notch, and we're blown away by it constantly. So it's cool.
That's right.
And the live material, Joe. Sorry, Jason. The live material. It's not just 1 or 2 songs. It's a full concert, right?
No, they recorded a full show in October of 1992.
Okay.
24 track. I mean, this
Amazing.
is a fully produced live album that has never been released. Nothing was ever done with it. It is set. I've seen the 24 track reels and I've seen the mixed down 1/2-inch master tapes.
It's sat in a vault unused for 30 years.
I think they might have mixed 3 tracks together for a television commercial way back in 1992 for some reason, for something. I saw some notes, some track liner notes in one of the boxes, and it sounded like at least that was the plan for it, but it never got released.
So Jason, I mean, you'll know this better than me, right? So I know this is the first time this show will be officially released, right? I know Slaughter had the live EP in 91. Is this their first full-length live album that'll be released?
No, they released an album on CMC called Eternal Live.
Okay, right. Yep.
That's right.
That.
And and a lot of people have asked us, are we going to license that? And I've told them we don't plan to at this time. I don't think there would be enough to warrant a box on Eternal Live. We could release it on vinyl and probably could get the license for it. We wanted to do the studio albums. And if we are lucky enough to get Stick It To You, we've got some really big surprises, including Stick It Live, awesome. Which was that EP.
Yep.
I was at one of those 2 shows, by the way.
Oh, really? That's cool.
Yeah, they recorded that in Nashville and Atlanta on the
I didn't remember that. That's cool.
Because at the very beginning of Stick It Live, he says, "All right, Nashville."
Right. Yeah.
3rd row center. So
how awesome is that?
It's pretty cool. But yeah, Eternal Live, they had the new song, Rock the World. It has live audience over it, but it's not really a live song. It's actually a demo that they put live stuff over. And then it's a live show from there on out.
Right. Yep.
But this is the only full live show with the original band. Eternal Live is with Tim Kelly.
Is Tim on that?
Yeah, it's with Tim Kelly. Yeah, okay. So it's in the prime, in the heydays.
It's the 92. Classic era, the 92, right there, the classic era.
So a couple of things to talk about real quick before we close up, like we haven't been long-winded enough yet. But
Lord,
the quote-unquote special item that one lucky person will be able to win in the Wildlife box set is a photo signed by the entire band, including the deceased Tim Kelly, which has been graciously given to us, which is an extremely cool thing to be able to have a piece of memorabilia that Tim actually touched and signed. And
it's out of Pat Lucero's collection.
Pat Lucero's collection. So we thank him again for that very much. The other thing to talk about is while Fear No Evil, the box set is sold out, the standard edition is still available. One thing to note is that the vinyl in the box set and the standard editions is always different. So the box set vinyl will be on black vinyl again, keeping it as close to audiophile as possible. Colored vinyl for the standard editions on both. So if you want to get all versions of this, you'd have to buy both the standard version and the box set.
There is a colored vinyl standard edition version of the Wildlife. It'll be double LP. It won't be 45 RPM. I don't think. I haven't run the times, but I think it's too long of a record to do a double 45 RPM record. So I have speed mastered. But if it's 33, we are still going to have it half speed mastered. So, so that's available. And this was a 30-minute answer to, you can buy all of this at
I was going to say, you still haven't said the website. Exactly.
KissMyWaxRecords.com. KissMyWaxRecords.com. So
yeah,
that's that. So
awesome.
There you have it. Is that enough?
God dang.
Is that too much? Yeah.
No, look, I find the whole process very interesting and fascinating, right? I'm beyond just what you're doing for the boxes, but even just the whole talk at the top about how the industry works. I just find that stuff very fascinating. And I think it helps viewers and listeners understand it's not that you guys took orders 9 months ago, 12 months ago, whatever, and then just
we've been sitting on our thumbs.
We're gonna earn $17.12 interest on this money. We've really got these people now.
I don't think we've earned any interest on that money.
There's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes in this. There's probably a hell of a lot of stress on a regular basis for the two of you. And like you said before, the two of you probably feel maybe more anxious, or just as anxious, I'll say, as the customers who want it in their hands, because you want to deliver the product and you don't want to keep people waiting. And you had the wildlife, which you have here, and you didn't want to put that out on pre-sale before Fear No Evil. But this is the world we live in, right? And again, I go back to what we said earlier. If you're not paying attention to what goes on in supply chain around the world, then I don't know where you've been for the last 2 years. It's not only Kiss My Wax, right? This is every industry. You go in the supermarket, the shelves are empty. I work with people around the world, and I don't care if you're in Europe, if you're in Asia, no matter where you are, people are having this problem. These guys are going to deliver. Fine. And again, don't blame them if the post office takes too damn long.
That's right. And we will absolutely do our best to get these cranked out the second they hit. They're off the presses and to us, we will get them turned around absolutely as fast as we can. All those things are in place with our fulfillment guy, and we're ready to go. Ironically, we're just sitting, waiting like everybody else.
That's it. We won't touch them. They will go from the pressing plant to Connecticut to be assembled by Tim and his team. And, we're not in the business of, nothing wrong with it, packing your own boxes and stuff, but we would prefer not to do that part of it. So we pay a fine team to do that for us. That's another expense that, so.
Which is why these boxes and deluxe editions and standard editions cost what they have to cost, because otherwise you guys would be losing oodles of money, I'm sure.
Well, not losing, you just wouldn't do it. It just wouldn't make, economic sense. No. Yeah. You would look at it and go, if the artist charges too much money to sign it, or things, all different kinds of variables, and you start looking at the costs start,
of course,
exponentially. Think about what you paid to the last guy that you had signed something for you. I don't know who it may be, but was it $50? Even if they give us even if they give us a 50% discount, multiply that times 500 records and think about how much money that is. It just starts adding up really, 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 really quick.
It really does.
You got to be able to cover those costs, or you just can't do it. So,
agreed. Well, for me, this was a lot of fun. It was eye-opening. It was educational.
I hope so.
I learned about the Kiss album, why there was only 300 records released. I hopefully won't make that mistake again. Joe, I still don't know how to pronounce your last name. Sorry about that. So
neither do I, and it's my name. So it's all right.
There you go. And it probably won't change the next time you're on. I'll be like, I got Jason and Joe, and you can call me out again on it. That's all cool. But, well, one more time, in case anybody kind of dozed off for a moment, where do they find the records?
Don't stop. KissMyWaxRecords.com.
Awesome. Thank you guys both.
Yeah. Thank you, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
Yes,
Thanks for having
us. This is a lot of fun. Thank you, guys. Everybody, go place those orders. Speak to you guys soon. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Alrighty, there you have it. I'd like to thank both Joe and Jason for joining me on the show, talking all about what it's like to produce a record in today's day and age, and giving us some great insights on their projects for the Slaughter albums, The Wildlife, as well as Fear No Evil. They both look great, and I know the fans are going to really love it. So go check it out and order them on KissMyWaxRecords.com. I know you guys are going to really love it. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit that subscribe button below. If you're listening to one of my podcasts, subscribe over there as well. Also, head on over to Facebook and follow my page, The Rock Experience with Mike Brunn. where each and every day we talk about all the rock and roll music that you love. You could also follow me on Instagram and Twitter as well. That's it for this episode. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. See you all next time.